Welcome in to episode 1 of the Talk of the Tribe podcast. I'm your host, Zach Bavers, along with my podcasting co-host, Riker Oberly. Riker, how are we doing?
Oh, I'm doing good, Zach. It's the first episode of the pod, and it's gonna be a good one. Hopefully this lasts for a very long time, because I'm having an already very good time.
Yeah, and we've got a lot of things to go through today on the pod, and it's gonna be a great day for the Talk of the Tribe podcast as we get going. And I know for us, we're not used to doing this podcasting stuff, but we're definitely familiar with mics. I mean,
Absolutely.
We're definitely familiar with talking in front of people, because if you know us, if you know Riker and I, we are the broadcasters for Wapsie Valley softball. We do a lot of stuff with baseball and wrestling and basketball and all this, and we're going to be getting into the fall season with fall sports coming your way soon. But for the first episode of the podcast, we do have a special guest.
Very special guest.
His name is Blake Buhr, and he is kind of the guy that runs behind the scenes here for most of our broadcasts. In fact, he was my broadcast partner for Wapsie Valley Wrestling. He does most of the PA for basketball and football, and he was kind of the guy that got us all into this. So I'd like to welcome our special guest today, Blake Buhr. Blake, how are we doing?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good, Zach. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so this is kind of the beginning of us. I mean, I started back in, I believe it was October of 2019. I started at a North Fayette Valley, East Buchanan, and Wapsie, and then there was one more team. It was a quad duel, I believe.
I believe it was Bellevue.
It was Bellevue, okay. And that duel was very interesting, not only for you, but also for me.
I loved watching it. I thought it was great.
I mean, if you want to go back and watch it, go for it, but it's definitely not going to be...
It's a fun time.
It's definitely not going to be the best broadcast that you've seen out of me, for sure. But, Blake, what were your thoughts on that one?
I don't know. Initially, I wasn't sure what to expect. It was just a young 7th grade kid coming up, kind of last minute, who I thought maybe was just going to sit in and listen. And I mean, I was still pretty early in the process myself. I hadn't done a whole ton of broadcasting, especially wrestling. I mean, because I'd always been I'd always appreciated wrestling, but I'd been a basketball guy primarily. But just kind of being the sports guy here, I kind of stepped in, but luckily I got some young kid that decided he wanted to get into it. Luckily, he had a little bit more wrestling knowledge than I did.
Yeah, I think it was good for me to kind of get that exposure right away, because if you want to go back and listen to it, go ahead, but you're going to hear a really nervous, really uptight 7th grade kid that is just making sure he doesn't make a mistake, even though I probably made about 50 of them. It was really nerve-wracking, because I'd never gone through anything like talking to a lot of people. And yes, when you're staring at a computer with a headset on, it doesn't feel like you're talking to a lot of people, but then you like go back and rewatch it and look at all the views it gets and all this, and you're like, dang, I talked to like 200 people, like that's insane. And now we're getting to the point to where, we'll have thousands of viewers watching playoff softball, and we had 1,600 viewers watch the regional duels that we went to, and it was amazing to see how it grew, for sure. But I think it was a good experience definitely for me, and we've got a lot of more stories to go through. But
no kidding.
So Riker, I remember I got you into this whole ordeal because we were transitioning into basketball, and Blake had asked for someone to recruit, because I'm like Blake in an opposite way. I appreciate basketball, but I really don't pay attention to it. I don't really know much about it. I kind of stay to my wrestling hobby, but I don't know how you felt coming right in, because obviously you didn't get to start like I did. You didn't jump on to a broadcast right away. You kind of was watching Blake and I, or Jeans and I, kind of go through this kind of stuff, and then you finally eased your way into it.
Yeah, I mean, when I guess you can call it recruiting, but yeah, he asked me to, tag along for a little bit, and I said, sure, why not? I didn't really know much about it, and, I followed you and Austin Jeans along, I believe in the first home basketball game when I, just kind of sat next to you guys, just listened, kind of like taking notes in my brain on, you know, what to say and hoping that I can get a future of broadcasting.
Yeah, and it was, I think it was first round of playoffs against Key High, I believe, at
Sounds
home.
right.
At home, and it was, I think you were doing stat sheets that night. You were keeping, you were keeping stats for us, so that way we could talk about them later on the broadcast. And then, you know, finally you kind of eased your way into this whole deal, and, you know, now we're doing playoff softball together, and it was really cool because I know as kids, you know, when you watch the Sunday night football or Monday night football or all that stuff, and you just, I know I as a kid was sitting there and just talking about stats and talking about all this stuff all the time, and honestly my parents were getting pretty annoyed at me talking about every 5 seconds, but they were kind of skeptical at first of how it was going and how we wanted to progress it, my whole idea of doing this more. But over time, and as I got better at it, and as I continued to do it, it got, not only did it make them more comfortable, but it made me more comfortable actually doing it. So, it was a very good experience for me. I don't know how you felt about it, with the whole Johnny Kleitch deal. I don't know.
You should get into that. That's a good story.
Yeah, Blake, do you want to tell him about that one?
I think, Zach, maybe you want to just dive into that one a little bit, and then I'll kind of fill in the rest of the details.
Johnny's a great guy. He's funny.
So basically, like I said, that first quad duel that I did, I was told I was supposed to sit up there and listen, just listen in.
That's what I did.
Take notes and all that. I was kind of try to do a Riker type deal there, but I ended up putting the headset on, which at the moment, I was kind of like, oh, I'll get to listen in, get a headset on. This is kind of cool. And
Felt
then
powerful.
Yeah. And then Johnny Kleitch came up, and he talks to me, goes, oh, you're doing the broadcast with Blake? And I just was like, okay, yeah, sure, yeah, okay. And he's like, all right, cool, see ya, and walks away, goes away, and I'm like, did I just kick Johnny Kleitch out of a job? Like, this is not how it was supposed to go.
Well, let me provide a little bit of context there. Like Zach did say, it was his first way into broadcasting of any sort, and he didn't entirely know to what aspect, but we had gone a couple broadcasts that year where I was on the call wrestling. I had a couple other people join me, and that night it would happen to be Johnny Kleitch that was going to do it, but it was also youth wrestling recognition night, so he was busy, you know, coaching and trying to corral some of those kids. So as much as Zach might have been scared and thought he made Johnny mad or something, taking his spot or appearing to take his spot, I don't think Johnny cared too much. I mean, Johnny, you're out there, you know, maybe you're listening, but I don't think you were too upset about that one, and I think we got a pretty good recruit out of the deal.
If you were upset at all, just tell me, and I will gladly apologize, because I did not mean to take your spot right away. And obviously, it turned out to be quite the case as we went on and did stuff. And you know, you went from having a scared 7th grade kid broadcasting his first duel to all of a sudden us screaming at the top of our lungs in the Lisbon gym, which that broadcast has almost 1,600 views, which is, I think, our top wrestling broadcast that we've ever done. And it kind of scaled at that point. We had started from just doing home duels to, you know, going to the closer away duels, and then we traveled all the way to North Tama, and that was a big duel that I actually did the whole second duel by myself, which might seem to people that know Blake kind of harsh for just to throw a 7th grade kid out and just, hey, here, do a whole duel by yourself. The thing is, that duel lasted about 10 minutes. There was about 8 forfeit matches out of, I can't remember how many matches are in the high school card anymore. But 14, okay. So out of 14 matches, like 3/4 of them were forfeits. So I didn't get to do much. I announced maybe like 2-3 matches, and those matches that I did announce lasted about 20 seconds each. So in reality, didn't do a whole lot. So it was a good experience to have to run the computer while also, you know, looking out and having to commentate the action that's actually going on. But I didn't get to do a whole lot of it. And that was kind of the point to where we were like, okay, well, this is something that we can actually do and we can do consistently. we started going to bigger and bigger duels, and all of a sudden we're going to regional duels. And that duel in and of itself was a amazing duel. Like that duel, that Wapsie Lisbon duel was amazing. I don't know, what are your thoughts on that one?
I mean, it was just great overall, where we've come to there, being able to go and broadcast, a wrestling duel. It went pretty well for a while. It had some hiccups there, definitely, but we were able to go and broadcast some pretty great wrestling and on the road, which, years ago we never thought would have happened. But we've come a long way. I mean, it's great having you guys getting into it more than just myself, because you guys definitely have talents, and I think they'd a lot of times probably rather hear you guys than they'd like to hear me. People have heard a lot of me. If any of you have been to any sort of game, like these guys said, I'm usually on the PA, but well, you guys might not know. Some of you fans out there might remember, back 10 years ago or so, our broadcasting games consisted of setting an iPad up in the bleachers and just following along with the game, and anytime someone walked up and down the bleachers, the iPad would shake, so they can't, the camera feed would get shaky. And we used to have this thing called the Cube. If anybody out there remembers that wasn't very long-lived, but that was another broadcasting platform that we used for a little bit. It did add score to the broadcast, which people liked, but it also had its issues. We tried some other things here and there, and when we finally got our huddle cameras, which for the past couple of years is how we've been getting games out to everybody, where the camera will automatically follow the action for basketball and football. Volleyball, it just kind of pans out so we don't miss anything. But I think you guys coming onto this has helped a lot, as we've been able to kind of expand things and increase the production value and the experience for anyone who's wanted to follow along from home.
So Blake, we kind of talked about how we got into this, but how did you get into this? I mean, you've been doing it for a very long time now, and I was just wondering how you got into it.
Well, I'm not entirely sure how I got into the broadcasting side of it. On the PA, public address announcing side of it, that was Mr. McCowan that got me into it. I was a freshman or sophomore. I showed up to a shootout at Wartburg, high school basketball shootout at Wartburg. I thought I was taking tickets that day, and he told me, no, you're coming down here and you're PA announcing. There were 8 games that day.
Oh, boy, that's
a lot.
I think that's as many basketball games that I went to last year.
That's more than how many football games we have in our junior high schedule.
Yeah, that's what you call trial by fire. But
Yeah.
I guess he must have saw something that he liked or thought might have worked, so I did that. And then while I was in high school, I did a few more of those, and I announced all of our home volleyball games. And if we had a rare girls-only night of basketball, I would do that. Later on, I got out, but I came back, kept doing volleyball, and I got more into basketball. I got into football when Tommy Jones, great guy, he was our PA announcer while I was in school, and when his youngest son became a senior, he had asked if I would take over for him. So I've been doing football since whatever year his son was a senior, 2016 or 17, I can't remember. And then somehow along the line got into broadcasting the wrestling meets. I think actually might have got into broadcasting wrestling in 2020 with COVID, when people couldn't come to the gyms and stuff. So that's how we set it up, and it's kind of where our live streaming kind of got its start, a real start with announcers.
Yeah, I think if 2020, and I don't wish for COVID to happen again, but there's some good things that came out of it, and one of them is the fact that, we started this broadcasting stuff, because I think if that never happened, and we never had really dove into this broadcasting stuff, I don't think, obviously, we wouldn't be sitting here saying that, we've broadcasted these wrestling meets and these softball games, because it just would have never progressed to that point. And maybe,
or had a podcast.
Yeah, at this point. And I think it might have progressed there eventually, but it definitely would not have started as early as it did. And that Lisbon duel, by the way, if you want to go back and listen to it, it's a great duel, but there was a little bit of a hiccup towards the end of the Wapsie Lisbon duel, and it was towards the last two matches, I believe. We had headed into the Easton Kroll match, and the Dawson Schmidt match. That was the one it was. And Dawson Schmidt came out, got a pin, and I was like, it was tied, 33-33. So I started going and talking about criteria, all this stuff, and going into this. And then, all of a sudden, I look over to the Wapsie bench, and I see Ethan Kroll getting ready to walk out to the mat. And I'm like, hold on, we don't have another match. Like, this is over. Like, that was the last match. Well, in high school wrestling, for every duel, they'll move up a starting weight class. What I didn't realize is the duel before this had started at Dawson Schmidt's weight. So what that meant is the next duel would have ended the weight after him, which was 132. So that was the weight Easton Kroll wrestled. And I see him come out, and I'm like, oh, we have one more match. So this is winner take all. Like, this is, all bets are off.
All the marbles.
It's for everything. Like, this is to go to the state tournament. And I think Easton had not wrestled a whole lot going into that. He had some issues. He hadn't wrestled a whole lot, but he was there, and he was the guy we needed, and I knew he was going to get the job done. So when he walked out, I was feeling pretty confident we were going to win. And even though I didn't know we had another match, I was like, okay, well, let's just go win this. And he ended up getting an armbar like 30 seconds in. 10 seconds in, takedown. 20 seconds later, he's got an armbar, he's running it over. All of a sudden, gets his back turned, and Blake and I just started screaming at the top of our lungs. And then when I saw the ref hit the mat, the Wapsie side of the crowd went berserk. That whole gym went silent on the other side, and all you heard was Blake and I screaming at the top of our lungs.
I apologize to the people whose eardrums may have gotten blown out that night.
Don't wear headphones if you're going to watch that. Do not wear headphones.
It was a crazy duel. But,
Zach, I think we should go ahead and get into our first segment, and I think it's going to be a good one. It's called Scenarios. And if you search in, YouTube, maybe even TikTok, you'll find some, I don't know if they'll call it scenarios, but you'll find stuff that, you're on an island, you can only bring 3 things. That kind of stuff, I'm sure some people have heard of that, so we're going to do it with Blake here. So I say we just start off with that one. So imagine you're on an island, just a stranded island, and you have to bring 3 things. What are you bringing?
I'm bringing a boat, gas, and a GPS.
Well, what kind of boat you bringing?
Anything that'll get me off the island.
Are you talking like paddles in a GPS and
Preferably some sort of boat with a motor, so I don't die while I'm trying to get back to civilization.
Yeah, I mean, it's
pretty logical. I think GPS makes up for it, but you have some not so good Wi-Fi out there, so you have to rely on some sort of internet tower. But I think if I were deserted on a stranded island, I'm bringing
You would be the one to be in that situation. I can see you on a deserted island, just whenever.
All right. Well, I'm bringing my phone, so I.
Oh, come on.
Well, you have so many options. I mean, you have GPS, text messaging, emergency calls, all that. Like, there's unlimited opportunities.
We call them the boat police.
And then I'm also gonna bring a boat and water.
Yeah, that's a respectable answers. About me, I'm probably gonna bring a knife, a bow, and an arrow. Arrows.
You just gonna live on the island?
I mean, yeah. If I could start like a I don't even know, but like a home, I got like a whole island to myself. Didn't even have to pay for it. There's got to be at least some animals on the island. You can, make food. You got the ocean as water. I mean, it's not the best water, but it's still there.
You can't survive off salt water.
I mean, I guess we're about to find out.
All right. Well, so there's your scenarios. I mean,
Oh, I got one more, Zach. Don't you do that. So Blake Buhr goes into your local Casey's, and you get to pick out 3 things because you got a very long drive ahead of you. You're going to, where do you want to go? You're driving to LA, so that's a very long trip. You got 3 things from Casey's. What are you getting?
3 things. Oh. I think it's probably anybody that knows me pretty well. I'm grabbing some Pepsi. That's my go-to drink.
I would have expected that, yeah.
I'm probably gonna grab like a bag of chips, some sort of bag of, usually a bag of potato chips. And probably like a slice of pizza.
There you go.
Casey's Pizza is
unmatched. I think if I were to go in, I'm gonna get a water. Need something to hydrate me as I'm going. I'm probably gonna get. Jeez, it's tough. I might get like a wrap. Like Casey's wraps. They're pretty good. And then I think I might go a slice of pizza. That's pretty good. I mean, you can't really match that.
That's true. So if I was in that situation, I can't drive yet, but eventually, if I have to go to LA for some random reason and I have to go to Casey's, first thing that I'm getting a gallon of strawberry milk, because if that is like that's my thing. Strawberry milk, I love it. My second, probably chocolate syrup, and then third, I'm going with a whole container of ice cream. Then I'm set.
This guy's gonna have an ice cream sundae in the back of his car driving to LA. But
Yeah.
So we're moving into the sports season. Media night is next Thursday. So obviously you're the PA guy. You've seen a lot of Wapsie football teams. You've seen a lot of Wapsie football games. I think my question is, what do you think is the best game that you've ever broadcasted for Wapsie Valley football?
The best game I've ever broadcast. Ooh, that's...
Or just announced in general.
That's going to be a tough one. There's been some good football over the years.
Did you announce the basketball Wapsie Valley versus AP in 2020? That was a great game. I can't remember the score. Wapsie did come out on top.
The overtime game.
The overtime game, yep.
AP was ranked number 1 in 2A.
Yep, that's the one.
I was... Sorry to switch gears on you there, Zach. But, I was on the PA for that one. I may have gotten just a little bit excited that one.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that game was top tier.
It was a pretty fun game to watch. I was on the PA for that one. That one went to overtime. Might have shaved a year or so off my life, just how fast my heart was racing in that one. I was on that one. That was pretty fun.
If you want to know how much or how little I really paid attention to Wapsie basketball at that point in time, this was before I had done any broadcast for Wapsie Valley basketball. Although I was watching it periodically, I was in the office here watching the Iowa-Penn State wrestling duel.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can blame me for that. If you've ever watched an Iowa-Penn State wrestling duel, it is top-tier TV. Like, it's just the best. It's back and forth all the time, and I don't think you can blame me for that one.
That's top-tier wrestling, to say the least.
Pretty good. I might give you a pass there. I'm sorry. I guess to go back to your football question, best game. Oh, there's just been a lot.
It's got to be a playoff
There's been a lot
game.
of tight ones that I've announced. If you're talking recently, the 2020 game against Lisbon, that one came right down to the wire, a goal line stand on 4th down.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
one
I was there.
pretty good.
Yeah.
There's just so many games to try and remember. There's been a lot of good ones over the years. It's hard to pick out one, but I guess that's a pretty recent one. Anytime beating Denver's been pretty great.
Yeah.
Haven't gotten a lot of those. It seems like we've been on the road at Denver a lot of the time.
We had them here last year, didn't we?
Yep, we did have them here last year. Any of the home playoff games that we've had, mentioned Lisbon. I think that was year 2020 was a weird one. We played Starmont too when they did a different expansion of the playoffs. Last year we played St. Ansgar here. That was a game. Thought maybe coming in was going to be, could go either way, and we played probably our best game of the season and beat them. I can't remember what the score was. 30. It was 35. Nothing. It was all Wapsie. It was all Wapsie that night.
Yeah, and I think it was Wapsie North Lynn a few years back on the road at North Lynn in the playoffs. That game was insane. Like, I think it was 20 seconds left or so. Maybe it was 30. Casey O'Donnell takes a knee, and he's like going to take a knee, but he just didn't take a knee. And the North Lynn guys just blew right through the line, just it imploded Casey. And he ended up fumbling the ball, and North Lynn got the ball back on their side of the field. And we ended up getting an interception, ended up winning the game. And that was about the most nervous I think I've ever been for a Wapsie football game ever. But we are going to head into our final segment of the first episode.
And that's going to be Warrior Trivia. You know, Blake Buhr, when I think of Wapsie Valley sports, I think of football and I think of Blake Buhr. So if anybody would be...
Well, I can agree with the first one. Your judgment on the second one may be a little questionable.
I mean, I'm fairly small-minded, so you can think what you want about that. But, I mean, so I'm just going to get into the first question. What was the Wapsie Valley 2022-2023 softball record?
2022-23 softball record?
As in this past year, yes.
This past year. They won over 20 games. They were 22-8.
That is correct.
That is correct, yeah. So
that's impressive.
Yeah, that is really impressive. If we're talking about a stat man over here, this guy knows what he's talking about. I don't think I even remember that.
Neither do I.
I thought it was probably 22-4, so I was close, but I definitely was not right. So that's
insanely impressive. You started off with over 20 games. You could have gone from 21 to 30. So just ended up with 22, which I think I have my next question here. What was the final score of the Southwind Wapsie Valley this past year softball game?
Softball game, I think that was.
And we both know what game we're talking about.
5-4.
That is correct.
Are you serious?
Yes.
No. Really?
Yeah, it is.
Dang, I didn't even remember that. I broadcast that game. I didn't remember the score. Jeez.
How about this? The baseball Southwind last game.
Why are you always pulling up take it farther back a little bit on this.
Take it further back. Let's go to
further back.
Let's go to playoff football now. Do you remember the Iowa City Regina Wapsie Valley football score? You remember that one?
I don't know. I tend to push certain games out of my memory there,
Yeah.
Zach. How about we go back to 2012 Wapsie Valley versus Hinton in the state championship football game.
24-21.
You didn't even ask the question yet. He could have said what was the
remember
score after
it.
the first quarter.
What was your question? Sorry.
You threw me off there. I gotta think back for a second what my question was. Who scored the game-winning touchdown in that one?
Oh, jeez. He has a player of the game plaque in the weight room. It's some O'Neal, I think. I don't know. I can't remember. I don't think I even remember that game. Like,
our special guest is turning our pod around.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. Do you know? Who is
It was Stone Kane who got the final score
Oh,
of that
yeah,
one.
okay. That makes sense, yeah.
I may have a little better memory of that since I was in school at the time, but I'm sorry. I gotta kind of school these guys a little bit. They're young. They have a lot of promise and talent, but occasionally I gotta bring them back down to earth a little bit so they can keep improving.
In this podcast we talked a lot about the past of Wapsie Valley football, but Zach, you're going into freshman year. You're practicing with the big boys now, and how's practice going?
It's long. I'm ready for it, but I think we're going to be a good team this year, so I'm ready for it. But we're going to do our final segment of the pod, and it is going to be our daily screen time. So if you want to pull out your phone,
oh, this could be good.
check your screen time from the day before. We're filming this, or we're recording this on
It's a Friday.
Friday, August 4th. So we want to go back to August 3rd here quick. See who has the lowest. That's the goal here.
We're going back to Friday or Thursday. When are we going to? Thursday? Yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you guys start.
I think I'm at 4 hours and 30 minutes.
You got more than me. I was at 3 hours 7 minutes.
All right, we'll see what Riker's got here.
For some reason, I'm not excited about this because my phone usually dies around 4 p.m. So
7 hours and 41 minutes. Riker, you got to work on that, buddy. All right, so...
hate to see it.
Lisa, if you're listening to this,
Okay.
you might want to pull his phone and make him.
Okay,
play
I have
outside or
reasons to
something.
be on my phone.
Yeah.
I have reasons.
All right, so we thank you for listening to episode 1 of the Talk of the Tribe podcast. We plan to have a lot more episodes coming down the line. We'll have our next episode next week. It'll be after media night, hopefully. We'll get to learn some things. It'll be after the volleyball black and gold scrimmage, so we'll get some thoughts on that. We might have another special guest coming in here to join us, but for right now, that's all we got, and we thank you for tuning in, and as always,
Go Warriors.